Chapter 1. The Unspoken Rules. Jerome Carter had been working at Riverside Cafe for 3 years. He was one of the best employees, always on time, always professional, and always putting in extra effort to make customers feel welcome. But despite his dedication, he knew there were unspoken rules in the workplace. The biggest one: people like him didn't get promoted. He had watched as newer, less experienced white employees were given raises and management positions, while he remained stuck as a server. He had swallowed his pride each time, telling himself that hard work would eventually pay off. But today, something inside him snapped. Chapter 2. The breaking point. It started when Jerome overheard his manager, Greg Thompson, talking in the back office with the assistant manager, Mike. "Look, I know Jerome's been asking about the supervisor position," Greg said, his voice laced with annoyance. "But we can't have someone like him in charge." It wouldn't look right. Jerome felt his stomach drop. He had worked twice as hard as anyone else in the cafe, and this was how they saw him. Mike hesitated. "But he's the most qualified." "I don't care," Greg interrupted. "Customers feel more comfortable with someone else. Keep him in the back if you have to." Jerome clenched his fists. He had endured enough. Chapter 3. The stand. That evening, during the busiest hour of the shift, Greg gathered everyone for a staff meeting. The team stood in a semicircle near the counter as Greg spoke about teamwork and opportunities for improvement. Jerome took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Actually, Greg," he said, his voice steady but firm, "I'd like to talk about opportunities." Greg frowned. "This isn't the time, Jerome." "No," Jerome said, louder this time. "This is exactly the time." He turned to face his coworkers. "I have worked here for 3 years. I've trained half the people in this room. I've covered shifts, stayed late, and gone above and beyond. And yet, I've been passed over for promotions, while others who have been here for months get ahead." A murmur spread through the staff. Some nodded in agreement. Greg's face turned red. "Jerome, this is not, and let's be honest," Jerome continued, his voice rising. "It's not because of my work ethic. It's not because of my skills. It's because I'm Black." Silence. Greg opened his mouth, but Jerome wasn't done. "I heard you, Greg. I heard what you said in the office. That customers wouldn't feel comfortable with someone like me in charge. But let me tell you something. I make this place better. I bring in customers. I create a welcoming space. And I deserve the same respect and opportunities as anyone else here." The cafe was packed with diners, and by now customers had turned their heads, listening. The tension was thick, but then clap, a single applause. Then another, and another. Soon, the entire staff and many of the customers were cheering. Greg looked around, his confidence crumbling. His authority meant nothing if the entire room stood against him. Mike, the assistant manager, stepped forward. "Jerome's right," he said. "And if you don't promote him, I'll be taking this to HR myself." Jerome looked at his coworkers, his heart pounding. He had spoken his truth, and for the first time, he wasn't alone. Greg swallowed hard, knowing he had lost. "We'll discuss this later," Jerome smiled. "No, Greg. We'll discuss it now." And this time, everyone was listening.